Welcome to Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast, the show featuring presenters and artists from the 1111 Tapestry Feminine Collective experience. Now, here's your host. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Tapestry Feminine Collective podcast. I'm your host, Arlia Hoffman, and welcome to episode 5. The first 4 episodes were devoted to conversations with Jacqueline Robinson, the founder, in exploring the fundamental energies that have informed and created Tapestry. And highly encourage you to go back and listen to those. The first one was about indigo, and then we talked about weaving and artistry, and the latest one was the Aquarian energies and how that is connected to Tapestry and its vision. Tapestry is a feminine collective, an artist marketplace. It's an event coming November 10th and 11th, 2023. And if you're listening to this after November, check out the website, tapestryfemininecollective.com. We're not done. There's a lot coming in 2024. Through the channels of a feminine collective and the group of high frequency and pioneering presenters from the Tapestry online experience. And on top of that, a boutique of custom artistry created by women, Tapestry uplifts, features, and highlights the creation and work of women. As we move through an evolutionary vortex never before seen on our planet, and that's the Aquarian age, and through rapid time frames, the beautiful truth of women needing and loving each other is even more true and essential. Through this love of ourselves and each other, we birth the new into form. So today we are interviewing one of the presenters, and her name is Rei Hance. I'm thrilled to have her here. It's taken us half an hour to go live because we've been chatting. So I'm going to read you her bio. She's with us by phone because she lives in the woods. And so we're going to have a great conversation in just a moment. Every decade of Rei's life has seemed like its own lifetime. I can certainly relate. As an actress in her 20s, sudden notoriety from the Blair Witch Project forced her to reconfigure every aspect of her identity. She moved to a small Northern California town to grow cannabis, a time she wrote about in her 2012 memoir, Grow Girl. She started teaching memoir writing at the San Francisco Writers Grotto. This was her first foray into holding people in their own becoming, in noticing how we exercise authorial authority over our lives. After producing, directing, and writing a TV pilot set in the crumbling cannabis underworld, she moved to Maine, got sober, received the Bodhisattva vows from Roshi Joan Halifax, and delved deeper into the guiding work she began as a teacher of memoir writing by establishing a coaching practice. Last year, she released her decidedly feminine, certainly American version of the I Ching, Oracle of Emergence. And I really want to hear more about this. She considers the I Ching her root teacher and has been working within its field for over 25 years. The I Ching has an uncanny way of restoring us to our intuition. It has for too long villainized the feminine and been couched in deliberately dense language to hold its power in reserve. It's Rei's joy to share the oracle with people who might never have otherwise found it. For an I Ching reading or to join Rei's pocket coaching program, go to reihance.com, and that's REIHANCE.com. Welcome to Tapestry, Rei.
Oh, I am so happy to be here. I felt so honored when Jacqueline invited me to present. This is I'm very excited about this event.
I am too. It's unlike anything else I've ever been exposed to. And I love the leading edge that we are creating on. So tell us.
It feels so right. Speaking of Oracle of Emergence, like it feels like exactly aligned with what's emerging now.
It does. And what I'm noticing in this whole process, and maybe you are too, that it is it's all about alignment. It's all about your own resonance and being true to that.
And being embodied enough to be able to feel that resonance.
Yes.
I think that's something that comes up in my coaching practice a lot, like women being so at war with their bodies that resonance can no longer be felt.
I'm hearing that all over the place, and that's happening in my own life as well. I know with other presenters, I know one in particular who does, Amy Granat, who does embodied wellness. So that's where we're headed. Is that being so aligned with your own body and being able to hear it and your own intuition that the next step forward is easy.
Exactly. And coming back to that, being guided by the feminine in order to really bridge that chasm between our life force and our life. And not even, I think bridge is actually the wrong way to put it. I think we have to go down into that chasm without fear of being engulfed. That's the other thing that comes up in my practice a lot. There's a lot of fear of engulfment, that it's going to be depression or anxiety, and staying with it until that anxiety is seen as like energy to do the next right thing.
Yes.
That actually that energy, those surges are a gift to move things through and to move our bodies toward the next right thing.
I heard recently that anxiety there's truth below the anxiety. The anxiety is pointing you towards truth.
Exactly.
And you're not going to ever find it if you're continuing to run from it.
And if you're continuing to pathologize it.
Yeah.
This is bad. I don't want to feel this. What if, let me open all the way up to this and see what it's becoming. See where it's pointing me. How is this a compass? How is this my essence?
And what do you think it requires to be able to do that? To be able to really sit with it and be with it?
To me, it's getting past the fear of engulfment, that there is probably grief under it. There's probably unmet grief there. There's probably unmet trauma there. That I think sometimes when we go to try and integrate trauma or even start to allow it, it can feel so big that we think we'll never come out of it on the other side. Like that trust can only come from embodiment, to really settle in the body into that expanded awareness. And that's where meditation comes in for me, like it's such a big part of my practice, to be able to have that open awareness. And then from that very soft, expanded place, trust that anything can move through. And we throw so much trash into the chasm. And then when we crawl down to the bottom, we're like, oh, I thought nobody was going to see that. All that crap that I threw down here. But like any chasm, there's a river at the bottom, right? That will carry you out if you put your feet up and you welcome that ease. But if we don't go down into it, we'll never see that river. We'll never find that flow. It'll always be looking at the other shore like it's something far away instead of what's just right here.
Yeah, what does Clarissa Pinkola Estes call it? The river beneath the river or something like that. And I think I would... Go ahead.
Well, I just think that's so interesting because the land that I live on, which is why I apologize for my poor audio, I live in a forest on top of a ridge, and under this ridge, and this was something I didn't know when I took on the stewardship of this land, was that there's an ancient river actually flowing under this ridge. And it's like I could feel that, like that there was a felt sense of that when I first came here that I couldn't have put into words. And it wasn't really until I was pursuing having a well that I realized how beautiful the water is here. And then I was informed that there's actually an ancient river running under this ridge. And it's the confluence of two continental plates, the plate that shifted over from Ireland to meet the North American continental plate. So there's all these stones here that wouldn't necessarily belong to this place, like me, who wound up here. And so there's this inherent sense of deep time on this ridge that I have the honor of living with every day, that there's stones that have come from a whole different corner of the globe to have landed here in this place. So it really helps to put things in perspective, to live in a place that is as old as Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me what being on that land has taught you.
Oof, I don't even know that it's been a matter of teaching or integrated
Maybe
lessons.
revealing.
It's been more, it's been like, how have I emerged with this land? How have we been together? Like, how has this land made me into somebody that I wouldn't have recognized as early as 3 years ago?
Mm.
And it is definitely the feral feminine. I mean, I currently live in a tent and shit in a hole. Like that's like, and that's been what's been required for me to be able to accumulate enough resources to build this place into what I see. Like, this place is Little Moon Refuge, and it's going to be a place where clients can come and people can come and be here and experience the magic of this place, the feral, dirty, uncomfortable magic of this place.
I understand that. I have experienced that, not in a long-term living situation, but I certainly have. And I understand it. It deepens your relationship with the earth in ways that we are no longer cultivating.
Exactly. And like in Zen, there's this, one of my favorite Zen phrases is, not knowing is most intimate. And so like for me, the intimacy and humility that this place has required of me has opened me in ways that I couldn't have imagined, and made of me a woman that I could not have imagined, and guided me to that inner Hieros Gamos. Like to find a capability that I didn't know I was capable of in terms of holding the container, holding the vision, and also being guided to that next right action. I am now a woman who runs a chainsaw, who splits wood, who wields an axe, who does all these things that would be seen as masculine. But every step of the way, I don't move until I've listened.
Well,
until that embodied listening has been established.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What is it? So what does the Hieros Gamos look like for you as you have had to deepen and expand into your own masculine and balance that with your feminine, which is what we're talking about, that marriage between the two?
Yeah.
How does it,
at every step I'm led.
You're led
I'm led by the moon. I'm led by the birches. I'm led by, where is the place? Where does this trail go? I'm watching the deer trails. Where have the deer gone? At every step of the way, I'm listening to the land. When I first came here, this land had just been logged, which is why I got an amazing deal on it. And I had come out of sexual assault and an early career where a lot was taken from me. And this land, everything of perceived value had been taken from it.
Yeah.
And I felt the same. Everything of perceived value had been taken from me. My name, my body, like anything that somebody had wanted, they just came and took. And so this land felt like home to me from that place. Because I knew it would come back, and I would come back, and we would come back together and create something that I could hold the vision softly and openly, and to know that, again, not knowing is most intimate, and that I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I knew this was where I belonged. And so what has that meant? That has meant I bought a chainsaw and didn't start it up till a year later because I was so scared of it. You know? But it's okay. If I want to survive winter with wood heat, I'm going to have to use that darn thing. So then who comes in? Like a 72-year-old woman who brought 2 giant chainsaws up to teach me how to do it, because she's a woods woman in a few towns over. And then she gave me a wood chopping lesson, and I then made herbal medicine for her horse. And so this sense of my skills are valuable, and everybody in a place like this has their something. Like, we are truly an ecosystem. and everybody's present. Nobody's special, and everybody's presence is required. And that has just really fed my coaching practice. It's just fed everything that I do, in that, like, I can step out with more confidence in who I am. That was actually something with my Zen teacher early on. She sat across from me. I was in a Dokusan interview, and she just looked at me, and because I was really like leaking energy and making a mess of things. And she just looked across from me in silence, from this like really like pristine talc mountain silence, just soft and wide. And she just looked at me and said, "I have confidence." And I was like, in what? What does that even mean? In what could you possibly have confidence in? Look at the state of the world. And it wasn't really until 5 years later that I was like, oh, this is what that means. It's a total trust that as long as I'm here, I'm held. And my individual life might be fragile, but the field of life itself is robust. And I'm intimate with that. That's what I'm emerging from, the 10,000 things, not a sense of self or an identity that I'm attached to or clinging to. Like, I had to shed all identity, name, gain, all of it. None of it belongs to me. Even this land, I'm the steward of it. It doesn't belong to me.
I tell you what, it occurs to me that as you're talking, like and I'll call it the trauma you went through around your identity, really set up the most beautiful evolution of letting go of your identity and coming into your essence, didn't it?
It felt so traumatic at the time to lose the career that I'd been training for, to lose my name. I was 25 years old when Blair Witch came out. And I lost everything that I thought was going to define my life, including my name.
Yeah, that's your ego prime, when you're in the prime of establishing your identity.
And I had my ego pulled out from under me in every way. I was like trolled. I've been trolled for as long as there's been an internet. People saying that I'm terrible at this. I'm annoying. I'm ugly. I'm blah, 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 blah. So I had to really, my relationship to identity was shaped by having none. But that led me to first Vipassana meditation, and then Zen, and then, I'm a step ahead of the game because I already believe in no self. I'm already riding the no self train. So now what?
Yeah.
What does that develop into? Who do I become in that? Who unbecome? I unbecome and become again, and constantly open to being reinformed and reshaped by the ecology of erotic emergence.
So many places I want to go. Let's talk about erotic emergence in just a second, but I wanted to return to confidence.
Yeah.
Bertice Brutteau, who was a philosopher who inspired Sue Monk Kidd, calls that confidence radical optimism. So much optimism that people think you're crazy for feeling.
100%.
Yeah.
Like when I moved to this land to live in a tent, like everybody in my life was like, you can't do that. It's Maine. What about winter? Like there were just, people were genuinely concerned and thought I had really lost my mind. They're like, you can't just go live on the raw land. I was like, no, I can. I am. It's actually already happening. And
that's pretty funny considering that people have done it for eons.
Exactly. This is how everybody lived, actually. And it just requires living here. As you can see, it's difficult to do a Zoom call. Like, how's my audio go? All these different factors of that modern life come in. But in terms of how do I eat while I start a fire? Like, everything requires embodied engagement. Every single step of my life, which is frankly exhausting some days. And I'm just like, God, I just want a stove and a fridge. And running water would be amazing. I'm really looking forward to that. I'll never take that for granted again. But like this idea that the more we engage with our bodies, the more uncomfortable it is. Like it is uncomfortable to carry 5 gallons of water up a 500-foot hill every other day. But it also has shaped my body. It's shaped my mind. I look like a different person. And so if I had been like, oh, this is crazy, I can't do this, there's no need for all this extra effort, I wouldn't have become who I am now. So that trust, I can't really describe that trust except to like call it ordinary joy. It's ordinary joy because life requires my intimate engagement. I have to be listening. I have to be, how many are the birds have stopped singing? So the weather is about to change. It's probably about to rain. Like, I have to be attuned to all those cues in my environment. I have to be a part of this ecology of the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I won't be able to cook and eat today. Like, I have to cook before the rain. It's a process of constant attunement and reattunement. I can't take my attention away.
Because your life depends on it.
Exactly. If I want to eat today, I have to be paying attention.
We'll be right back. The Women's Agency is proud to be an Indigo sponsor of Tapestry Feminine Collective and this podcast. The Women's Agency is a full-service coaching and podcasting firm devoted to amplifying your work in the world because your voice matters. Let's return to our conversation with Rei Hance about what Erotic Emergence is. To learn more about Rei, visit her website, reihance.com. That's REIHANCE.com. So let's talk about erotic emergence. What do you mean by that?
It's how we emerge from the 10,000 things. It's desire without object. It's self from non-self. It's the revelation of essence. It's the realization that intimacy is eros, not safety. Like I think we can feel
okay. I'm going to stop you right
eros.
There. Back it up. Intimacy is eros, not safety. So the safety is not eros. The intimacy is.
Yeah. Eros isn't safe. Like, I'm not. My mother said to me when I first came up, she said, I wish you weren't so exposed. I wish you had more protection from the elements. And I was like, I wish you had more exposure to them. Oh, we can feel threatened by eros. I think especially as women, as we reach middle age and we start to have that fear of no longer being an object of desire.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, there's this initiation into releasing desire from any object, just like releasing identity from any object. So the more we abide in a sort of free-floating desire, the more intimate we get with everything around us, the human and more than human world. We then allow ourselves and our wisdom and our artistry to be shaped by everything, because we're open to being penetrated by everything, which I don't think is an overstatement, that we are allowing ourselves to be penetrated by life without the need to be an object of desire anymore, but to be a byproduct of desire.
I think that's the essence of woman, yes, to be
absolutely.
Receptive.
The willingness to be penetrated and then allow that the power of that penetration to permeate everything around us. And to be like so fundamentally nourishing to everyone we meet, to every caterpillar, every dog, every person, every birch, like that we can be
we are conduit.
And we can become that specific source of nourishment in our own ecosystem, which is an honor and also a tremendous responsibility, because once we do surrender to that, it brings people in. And sometimes people get brought in who lose their shit a little bit because they're not used to feeling that.
Right.
And so it's important to be able to have that grounding. And I think that's part of that confidence. Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm still thinking about the receptive feminine being penetrated. And it occurred to me recently, like it is not a passive thing. It is the most potent source of our power to open, to receive, and to invite.
Yeah, a peony
to be invited,
knows.
to be the chooser of what enters you, of what you receive.
A peony doesn't grab at bees or human faces. A peony simply is and rests open, and they come. A peony is itself in being, is an invitation.
It's in perfect integrity.
Right. And therefore, it's utterly magnetic. Because a peony is completely emerging from Eros. There is no other way. A plant doesn't get in its own way. Only we do. With our
and this is why they're our teachers.
Or fear of aging. Yeah, exactly. It's so like I'm in so many groups with women my own age, and they feel like, oh, the way this thing gets warped in women at midlife of I'm going to shift from Eros to people pleasing to demonstrate my value. And,
right there. Let's stop right there. And
okay.
That's about 3 more podcasts in and of itself. But
yeah, right. It totally
let's define Eros. It seems to me you're defining it as our vital life force.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. But that it's not sex, but it's also certainly not separate from sexuality, because it is something we emit like a fragrance. When we're in that, we can feel it in others. Like when I met Jacqueline at the coffee shop, as soon as I walked in the door of the crowded coffee shop, I saw her.
Yeah.
Because she embodies that. So it's your radiance. If you allow that through, if you're surrendered to the ecology of erotic emergence, others feel it.
And so you were talking about the women who make the choice who literally consciously choose to set that aside for, you said people pleasing, but that's basically abdicating their integrity.
It is. And it comes with so much resentment.
Okay.
Right. Oh, I actually, if I'm aging and I'm no longer catching the eye of men, or I no longer consider myself an object of desire. And to me, oh yeah, maybe that is just a natural part of the initiation of menopause and your initiation to cronehood, because now you abide in desire. You are desire. You are that river at the bottom of the chasm. There's no more separation.
Oh, I love that. You are the river at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
because where would separation come from when you trust that you're emerging from everything?
Ooh,
you are now an emergent property. Like you're now an emergent property. So your desire doesn't require anchoring in an object either coming in or going out.
Your desire requires no one else.
It just is, like breathing, like sunshine, like rain. It's just it's elemental. It's essential.
I want to return to the word you used, which was, if they abdicate their integrity, they become resentful.
Yeah.
And I know that resentment is an indication that you have violated your own boundaries, or you've allowed other people to violate it.
And you've colluded with a narrative about your lack of value. You've abdicated your right to desire. Because now I'm invisible now. Well, I'm going to be 50 on winter solstice. And so, if I went with that narrative, I would have a completely different life. And I work with a lot of women who have taken on that narrative. Oh, if I don't do this, if I have the 11s between my brows and I have to inject that with something because I can't, then how could I be worthy? How could I be worthy of sex? How could I be worthy of Eros? How dare I walk into a room like a peony?
Yeah.
I'm not entitled to that now at my age. And now what I'm going to do instead is try to make myself useful as a people pleaser. And then I'm so full of resentment that I've cut off my connection to Eros even more. And I become more dry and more brittle and more invisible and more resentful. And it becomes this awful cycle of withering. And that's something I work with a lot of women on. So it's like getting women to allow pleasure. Just allow pleasure. So like they switch from feeling like, oh, I'm not entitled to pleasure or Eros or to be juicy and radiant. So what I'm going to entitle myself to is a bunch of things that I'm not entitled to and actually have nothing are none of my business.
No,
like
and what I'm thinking is I'm not entitled to just be me. I have a responsibility to uphold the standard of youth for those around me, so I don't make them uncomfortable.
Exactly. Oh, I hate the patriarchy, but I'm intimately colluding with it.
Exactly. And we're swimming in it, right? So it takes a lot of reflection and work. And this is why we do what we do, to really unpeel, to be aware of those layers of how we're colluding with it. So
we're touching of our own pussies and connection to the moon. It might be simpler than that. It's a systemic problem, but I think the solutions are very direct and tender and sincere and small, intimate.
And ordinary.
Ordinary joy. It's in a bowl. It's like in the beauty of a clay bowl. It's where it's not. Like ordinary joy is where you get out of it, and allow it to fill you, allow it to be filled.
Yeah. Before we got on the air, I was telling you about going to this gathering yesterday. And I walked into the kitchen and I was somewhat prepared. I knew this person was going to be here, but it was a woman I had not seen for 20 years. And the last time she saw me was in the midst of my divorce, and she is still intimately connected as a friend with my ex-husband. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea how that was going to go, but I walked in and she greeted me warmly and she said, "Oh my God, you look amazing. What have you done? How do you do that?" And the only answer I had was, I keep reinventing myself. And what I meant by that was, I'm not just going to let the status quo take me. No. It is a continual journey of integrity, coming home to myself.
Integrity, artistry, deepening wisdom, deepening confidence, stability of confidence. It's like, I know how to swim in that river at the bottom of the chasm. I know how to put my feet up so I don't get caught on a rock trying to right myself and drown.
The funny thing is, we all know how. It's remembering.
We so do. And that one of the best pieces of advice somebody gave me a few years back was just remember who you are. And there's this whole thing in Buddhism, prajna, and it means wisdom. And it's something to allow yourself to be subsumed by. It's not something you pursue or attain.
Yeah. It's because it's already within you.
Exactly. And it's a womb.
The womb of wisdom.
And it is. It's the womb. Mm-hmm. It's the womb of wisdom. And can we allow ourselves to be subsumed by the holy throb of that womb?
Oof.
Can we embody that rhythm? Can we allow ourselves to be engulfed and spasm and release and invite?
Mm-hmm. These days that requires courage.
I wrote a piece a couple of years ago when I moved up here about I don't have courage. Mm-hmm. Like courage is not a personality trait. It's an aperture. Like how can we dilate into courage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's kind of a setting of the heart.
100%. 100%. And how many hearts are closed for fear of grieving?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't get to courage or love or our own humanity without grief.
Yeah.
Long, sloppy, indeterminate grief.
Yeah. My season of grief started in 2017, and it was experience after experience that I could not ignore. And I'm grateful for the impact of that. I'm a changed woman because of it. I'm so much more me.
Mine started in 2018 when I got sober. And it was just, especially the first year, I went from rage to grief to rage to grief to rage to grief.
Yeah.
100% that I'd been numbing. Because I was afraid of being engulfed. Like I might not survive the trip to the bottom of the chasm. I might not come out. I had no trust yet. it's impossible to have trust and addiction in the same system.
Ooh, yeah. And I can tell that's what makes you able to sit with your clients as they journey in their own chasm.
And to learn your birthright is belonging. Like it's always been yours. Always. And that's why I link boundaries and belonging too, because like you can't have that sense of belonging without boundaries, without knowing where your skin begins and ends, and knowing that skin, like reality, is a permeable membrane, but it's still a membrane that exists. That it's not separation, but it is specificity.
Given that your intimate connection with the land, is that belonging connected to place?
Oh,
is it 100%. Independent of place?
I don't think belonging can ever be independent from place. And I think the sort of geography of nowhere that we live in now, of developments, subdivisions, moving in our cars from an entertainment module to a sleep module to a eating module. We're like moving between these nodes without ever really resting in place. It's possible my family is from Philadelphia for generations. Nobody owns land. There's no sense of place. There's no real rootedness except for a sort of cultural continuity. If that makes sense. There's no real sense of what kind of rock is here? What kind of tree is that? It's not just tree. What kind of squirrel is that? Without that, without being intimate with all of the beings in your ecosystem, it's very hard to have a sense of belonging.
Yes. I definitely discovered that during the 2020, 2021, when I was spending so much time at home. I definitely connected to the ordinary joys and became intimately connected with the land that I live on. And
how did that change you?
I dropped a lot of the striving and just, I rested. It became my source of my literal and internal grounding. And I've had a relationship with the land as our teachers for years, but it was a whole new relationship of honor and intimacy. Yeah, I was going to say rest, but rest doesn't do it justice. It's intimacy. And short-circuited a lot of the anxiety that I was able to just let go of because it was no longer necessary.
Because you had nothing to do with it. Like, it wasn't for anything anymore. Yeah. Isn't it crazy how we mistrust the fertility of rest?
Absolutely.
Talk about colluding with the patriarchy within a fear of the feminine. Boy, rest is fertile.
It's the source. It's the source of creativity.
Yeah.
Babies aren't
dirty and it's mucky.
The womb is not a busy place. It's not
no. It's wet and it's dark. It's heavy.
Quiet and
but also it's permeable. It's not separate from the rest of the world. It's a refuge.
Yes. Rei, you are one of our presenters at 11:11.
I am.
I'm thrilled. I feel like I've already just been in your presentation. What
kind of.
What led you to participate in Tapestry?
Jacqueline reached out, and then, like I said, when we met up in Maine, and I just immediately picked her out of the coffee shop. I was like, "Oh yes, this is a kindred spirit." It's funny how you can always like feel your clan, because it's a scent and a sound. Like, it's not even visual. It's just boom, there it is. There they are. Hi, how are you over there?
There you are.
Also, there you are, also abiding in Eros. Come, let's have a cup of coffee. So I was delighted to partake in whatever she's cooking up because she feels like kin. So and then she's, wait, what do you think you might like to present on? And I was like, it's got to be the ecology of erotic emergence, because to me, that's the path of liberation for all beings. That taking it, coming from a Zen Buddhist context, there's a sort of dry, masculine approach to liberation. And to me, that's not my experience in this feminine body at all. To me, it's, surrender is juicy. Surrender is to be led, to be penetrated by all the beacons, so to speak.
Beautiful.
So I've been framing things as the ecology of erotic emergence for a while, and life has been giving me plenty to bear it out. So I'm looking forward to digging in with people one-on-one that are at that diamond level who are going to do some of the one-on-one work. And I'm looking forward to doing I Ching readings with them and just delving into making the unconscious conscious, as Jung said.
Yeah.
So it doesn't manifest as a fate by which we feel victimized, because that's the true tragedy.
Sign me up for an I Ching reading.
I'd love to. Perfect.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for being here. I am excited about you being on the panel and what you bring to the collective. And hopefully all of us will be inspired to really be receptive and open and surrender to that erotic emergence.
Woo! What a world. I want to live in that world.
You and me both. You and me both. If we have anything to say about it, that's where we're headed.
Trying to lead by example.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Arlia. I really appreciate it.
I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you for being here today on Tapestry Feminine Collective. Next time we'll have another presenter available for conversation. If you want to learn more, you can certainly go to tapestryfemininecollective.com. Thank you, Ray, for being here. Thank you all for being here with us. We will see you here again next time on Tapestry Feminine Collective. Thank you for joining us on Tapestry Feminine Collective podcast. To learn more, visit tapestryfemininecollective.com.